Hello and welcome. I do apologise, everyone. I think there was a slight issue with the setup of the stream. I'm using StreamYard and it seemed to create a duplicate stream there by mistake. So yes, this is the finale of the 12 days of Christmas. And what we're looking at here, or 12 days of whiskey Christmas, what we're going to do is we're going to run through the best-selling whiskies. And what we're going to do is rank them based on what we think is the order of those 12. So we'll go through the 12. We've got some facts to share that we didn't give previously on them. And then we'll probably go into a few other bits as well where we talk about other whiskies that potentially we think could have been in the list, or whiskies that are good values to buy, depending on, when there's offers to get them or not at that stage. But as always, I am joined by the one and only Luke John.
Konnichiwa. How are you all? Hope you've all had a lovely Christmas and a Happy New Year to you.
Yes. Well, I hope everyone's had a good time. All right, Stuntman's in and David's in as well. And I know we sent Joey to the incorrect stream earlier, or I did at least. I should say that. Well, how have you found yourself then? So you enjoyed the 12 days. I know it wasn't quite perhaps what we began talking about originally. We talked about something different, and then we'd end up going with this suggestion of mine, which was to go with the generic 12, as we'll put it.
I think it's been a little interesting. Like you said, it is different, but it's kind of opened the palette up to the different phases or the different shades of whiskey. So bourbon, single malt, blended. So it's kind of give like a nice overall picture of what whiskey is doing. I mean, we'll get to some facts and figures a little bit later, but it's quite staggering, or at least one is, should we say.
Yeah, staggering indeed. I think when we look at the list, most of them we said were mixers, weren't they? They would be mixers, and we were having them neat, and we potentially, could have done them in a different way, where we could have tried it neat, had it mixed, and then gone back to having the neat one, but after we've left it for X amount of time just to let some of the flavors develop. But I feel with most of these, it didn't really require that because they're not complex single malts. They are meant for mixing. So what you're going to get in the flavors to begin with is what you're really going to get. But I found it interesting to go through some of these. A lot of them, I would say, I haven't had as standalones. That was what I found interesting, to have them as standalones, not with them as a mixer.
And when we say single malt, I was quite surprised that we actually only had one single malt. Liam's playing. But yeah, one single malt in the top 12 best-selling whiskies in the UK. I mean, we're the home of whiskey, and yet we have one single malt. I don't think that's quite right. So, well, we have thoughts on that, and we'll get into that in a little bit anyway.
Yeah, it's pricing that I think leads to most of these, along with marketing and pricing that leads to these. All right, well, evening to everyone that's in, and yes, I know we could have obviously done things different to that stage. We could have just gone a different route, couldn't we? We could have done some good whiskies at that stage. Shall we go through then the 12, but in our order, how we've ranked them individually? Should we jump into it?
If we go through, if we go in through the order of what we did in the series, because that's how people have watched it.
Mm-hmm. So we'll do
and
number
then
12
go through them first, and then we can put ours in.
So if we show what number 12 is, so number 12 in the actual series was Jim Beam.
Yep.
So that came in 12th place of sales in the UK in 2023. But what did we think out of all the ones that we tasted. Should we go through the top 12 first and then do ours?
Yeah, go through it and then we'll tell you how we ranked them. Because it'll come up on the screen at the same time, but the difference how we both personally ranked.
So
each
11
whiskey
out of the best selling in the UK was the Red Label. Then we hit the only single malt in this series, which not single malt, the only single malt, but not the only age statement. So that was the Glenfiddich 12 that was in 10th place. In 9th place, it was Monkey Shoulder, and that's the Monkey Shoulder batch 27. Can never remember the number on it. So they got 2 batches in batch 27. Then in 8th place, we had Maker's Mark. So a bourbon, second bourbon making up that list there. Then 7th place was the controversial one of Is It a Whiskey? That's the Jack Daniel's Tennessee Honey. I know this camera's terrible. I'm like, focus. Then in 6th place, this is where I go to the non-miniature version. Yeah, this focuses fine, doesn't it? White and McKay. Then 5th place, we had the only other one that has an age statement, which was the Johnny Walker Black Label. So 12-year age statement on that. And that was the second Johnny Walker in the list. Then we've got the ones that are quite everywhere, you see everywhere in all the pubs you go into. You've got Bell's in 4th place. The Famous Grouse taken in 3rd place. Probably do it like that to get it in the picture. Then we have Jameson's in 2nd place. The only Irish whiskey on that list. And then 1st place, which everyone can always guess and assume, yes, it was Jack Daniel's, which I don't know what we're going to call. We're just going to call Tennessee whiskey. I think we agreed, just because we're not getting into that debate of bourbon whiskey or in between. Yes.
I mean, it's got plenty of names for it, to be honest.
It has indeed.
But I think, like I said, it's kind of like a good roundup of different styles of whiskey.
It is.
Obviously, apart from the fact that we only had one single malt, but we couldn't do anything about that. It's not our list.
You got the style.
So,
you got the style. You got a single malt in there. You should be thankful about that. Originally, I didn't think we'd have any single malts in there, but it's surprising to have that. And STD, Joey, Jameson's is rough. Is that what you're saying? I don't think I can agree with that. I don't think I can agree with that at all. I like Jameson's, but there's definitely one that's rough in there. There's definitely one that's rough. Which this is probably one that makes you. It could get you drunk for the price. But let's see. Right, so that was the 12. That's based on sales in the UK for 2023. Those were the 12. Do we want to?
Before we jump into it, what dram are you going to have while we're talking about them?
Well, I'm going to have a dram that's not actually on that 12 list, and it's a Jameson's, but I'm going to go for a Jameson's Round. So this is a more rounded body on it. They produced a few of these. They had bold, they had round, and another one which was, I think, more citrus. So you can see I've had a bit of it, and it's one that I think is nice for me to work through the list, but also show that there is some really nice other Jameson's ones out there as well. We didn't even discuss that we were going to have a dram or anything. Yeah, what have you got for us?
So I'm going to have 2 during the night. But my first one is I'm going for the Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Travelers Edition. 50%, so it's 100 proof. Lovely bottle. I kind of really enjoy the Travelers version. We couldn't get it here. Obviously, it's in its name, Traveller, so you can only really get it overseas or at airports, duty free, that type of thing.
This is where I picked this up as well. I think it's one of those ones that you find a lot more of the limited edition whiskies in airports, duty free, that they've specially made to get people's attention, isn't it? So
yep.
That's my Jameson's round poured out. It's not rough. I like it better than Jameson's, but Jameson's is good regardless. And it's not
And for
whiskey.
me, there's my single barrel, which is a lovely, and that is kind of the colour on screen, unlike some of the others that we had a little bit of problem with while we were reviewing them.
This is coming up paler on the camera than it actually is for me, but it is quite a light one.
So Liam's had a few bevies the night before. I've had an absolute skinful. That's the gear we're going for.
Yeah, that's what it is. I do like, I've got to admit, like, I like Gentleman Jack, and the single barrel is good as well. But my favourite out of the Jacks is Gentleman Jack. I think, again, it is just because it's probably a bit more charcoal smoke element added onto it.
I mean, I'm not going to say too much about my next pour, but I've kind of already got it. Dust.
Well, I'll run and get one to match at that stage. I might open up a mini someone gave me as well. You never know at that stage. I knew I wanted the round, which is why I quickly got that out before I even joined the stream with you there. I was like, yeah, I want the round. It's really nice with it. It takes that Jameson's, but I feel it's like more on the wood, and it hangs around more in the mouth after. But it is a very, very smooth body. Jameson's is always smooth body, but it's a very smooth body, but it gives you a bit more of the fruit as well. I just like it because it's got a bit more of those flavors coming through on it.
I mean, my bottle of single barrel, it's been open a while, so the oxygen's been allowed to get into it, and in doing so, it's mellowed out. There's no heat. There's no bitterness. There's just this sweet, kind of oily smoothness to it, which I quite like. And that's one I will definitely be buying another bottle of. However, it's nowhere in the price range that all of these 12 were in. In fact, you could probably buy 10 of these for the same price as that one bottle.
But you've got a collection there, haven't you? You've got quite a collection of Jack Daniels, haven't you?
I have. It's, for me, with Jack Daniels, and I'll get into it more later, it's the branding. They've hit it right. As I said in yesterday's review, it's not the best, it's not the worst, but what they've got spot on is the branding.
Yeah.
You don't need anything else. Well, some do, because we're going to get into that.
I told you after we'd recorded that about how I think early days of launching in the UK. I say early days of launching, I mean when they were pushing the marketing big time. So you'd see the tube adverts saying September is Jack's birthday, and then they get the Christmas adverts, which I don't think I've seen them do a Christmas advert in ages, but the barrels and making their Christmas tree out of all the barrels. But they had like a marketing thing that I signed up to. I used to get free shit all the time. I mean, not actual, whiskey or anything, but I used to get like luggage tags, Jack Daniels ice cube makers. So like it was bags that you pour into and you get square ice cubes out with a 7 on them, if it comes out correct, which it never would. It just gets so much. And then every year I get like a calendar as well on the desk. Loved it. And then obviously they reached enough, or they ran out of marketing budget and went, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing about whiskey is if you're new to whiskey or bourbon, then Jack's probably the best one to go for because they do so many different gift ideas. So you get a glass, you get a couple of 5CLs, you get,
I just
you know,
pick up
20
something in the
CLs.
comments here for you, Luke. So who's got the most booze in the house between these two? Out of us two, who's got the most booze in the house? My finger is pointing at you. My finger's pointing at you. 2 reasons.
Well,
we got to look at
booze or whiskey.
Well, that's the thing. I'm looking at booze as the count of all booze, and I'm counting units and measures at this stage because you have a lot more bottles and a lot more, obviously, ABV in all of them. I've got beers, yes, but they're nowhere near the level of bottles that you've got of whiskey. So whoever said Luke wins, which means all of you lost, I think, at this stage. They think it's me. No. I'm running my supplies down.
I mean, for me, I've got 2 beers, but I think I've got 30 bottles of whiskey, out the same again in gin, and a few local made vodkas. But the good thing is with spirits is it's there to be sipped. Where, as you know, in the past with the beer, you open a can of beer, you're going to drink it, the entire 500 ml. You don't necessarily do that with a whiskey unless if you're hardened and you're going to be that way inclined. But yeah, it's not often you're down a full bottle of whiskey a night. But you could have the equal 1 litre in 2 cans. So
yeah,
just to put that in
I just think, yeah, beer is something that's it doesn't keep. I mean, you can age certain beers and higher ABV you can keep, but generally beer is a turnover, especially if you've got hoppy beers. You're drinking, going through them, like that. Whereas whiskey, you're not going to work your way through a bottle. You will share it when people come round. So then tends to be when I get a new bottle of something, I keep it till I've got people come round for something, an event, a reason to crack it open, go through it, and then I can sneak a bit every now and again. Enjoy the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I quite often, just last thing at night, just to unwind, get myself ready for a good night's sleep. Just the odd dram, sat in silence. Usually lights dimmed out, just a lamp on at the side, kind of like the old images of how they used to portray whiskey.
Oh, imagine you've got a pipe on the side as well at this stage now, Luke.
No pipe, but I have got the Chesterfield.
Yeah. I've got my Chesterfield over there. Just kick back, relax, have a nice whiskey glass. I wouldn't put it in one of these. Yeah, these are called are they called the Ken glasses?
A Glencairn. Yeah, Glencairn glass.
Yeah.
So those glasses are great for sniffing.
Yeah.
It's basically the snifter glasses. They kind of open up and you can swirl and get the aromas out.
And the idea is that it's for smaller amounts, whereas, if you're perhaps going to settle down, you pour yourself a bigger one because you're just staying on the one, have a bigger measure, and then it will change as you go through it, complexities, because it warms up.
Yeah.
I think I'll let you determine, are we going to reveal then on 12 what our number 12 out of those are?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah. So
I mean, people will probably be shocked at this point.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe that Jack Daniels has come in that low for you, but a man who seems to love it, putting it into last place, unbelievable. No, so we went through the 12, so we showed you the 12. So in 12th place officially, it was Jim Beam, but out of the 12 we tasted, we've ranked them, and I think the reveal is, I'm looking for the bottle. I don't know why I'm doing that because it's the easiest bottle to find. I've chosen one, you've chosen one, and these are what we've chosen as the 12th out of these. So the worst out of the 12 that we tasted was White and McKay. Yes, we both think that this is the worst one out of the list. I can't even see how it got in the list. I mean, we talked about pricing, didn't we? Saying White McKay is cheaply priced. But when we were doing it and January clicked around, there was loads of offers on the other whiskies as well. So they had started literally the day we were doing White McKay. I think it was offers were jumping in for all the other ones, and they were getting as cheap or cheaper. And looking now as well, we've seen some that are even cheaper still with club card offers. So I don't understand why you would go White McKay. I mean, I've seen in Tesco's you can buy a litre bottle for £18.50, so £18.50 for a litre. But I just don't like it. It's just.
And this was actually it was number 6, wasn't it? The 6th best selling whiskey in the UK. And yeah, like Liam said, it was cleansing. It's a cleansing product, basically. The taste is rather foul. It's acetone. It's metallic. It's just something you don't really want on your palate. I mean, if you're going to mix it, yeah, but there's other whiskies that'd be much better as a mixer than White McKay.
I still feel even mixing it wouldn't be that great. Sorry, you're going to have to over mix it. You're going to have to put quite a lot of Coke in to drown it out. Whereas, as we said, like the Bells and Famous Grouse, I feel for the same price, roughly price point, you can get them and they will be good. Like on their own, they're drinkable, but when you mix it, that's where they'll come in and they'll be good. Whereas, yeah, White McKay, I just not a fan of it at all.
White McKay today in Tesco on club card is £14. Now, for £14, even with a club card, is so cheap. You want to be worried why it's so cheap. I mean, the style of the bottle, the branding on the bottle is spot on. But to me, they put all the effort into the branding and the look of the bottle than the actual liquid inside it. And that's kind of what I get with White McKay. To be honest, it's only last on the list because we couldn't drop it off the list.
That was our first time actually tasting it. I hadn't tasted it before. And someone's just said it's actually pronounced White and Mackay. Mackay, in a sense. Like, if we put a Scottish accent on it, White and Mackay.
But neither is a Scottish, and even though I'm closer to Scotland.
You're close enough, yeah, at that stage. But, yeah, I it's a no for me. It's a no. And sadly, it was the only one we got in big form. So we've both got 70 centilitres of this.
1 litre.
Oh, you got 1 litre. Yeah.
I got a litre of it.
Litres then, haven't I?
Yeah. Which I don't mind because as I move house, I can use that to clean the toilet, the sink, the basin, the pipes, the drains. Yeah.
Yeah. I went out and bought a litre of it and then realised I had a 70 centilitre at home. But I found the receipt and I think I can return the 1 litre one, so I didn't open it. So I'm like, oh, thank God, because I don't really want that hanging around. What concerns me is it says that in 2018 they won the Spirits Challenge Gold. So they won a medal in 2018. Now, did they win it with this one? Or did they overall win it?
If they won it with the liquid that's in that bottle now, then it must have been at the end of the day after 100 odd drams.
They sponsored it. It was the category where they put all their own whiskies in, and one of them had to come gold at that stage. Yeah, I've heard of them. I've heard of them as a maker of whiskey, or they're also a brand, I would say, because they own other brands underneath it, don't they? So they're a holder of brands, but I've never had their blended whiskey. I've never had it before. I'd never really paid attention to it. So I must have seen it in shops because it's in the shops, but I just never paid attention until I got this list and I was hunting it down.
And this is the 6th best selling in the country.
Yeah. Concerning.
Unbelievable, Jeff.
Yeah,
in honour of Chris Kamara.
changing hands for that gold, I tell you. Everyone that's joined us, I see Sharks on as well. Right, so 11th place. So 11th place was for sales red label, but out of the 12 that we tasted, what have we deemed to be 11th individually? Is there a disagreement on this one? I think we've come out different, haven't we?
We have indeed.
Yeah. All right. So 11th place. I've gone for Jim Beam, and Luke has gone for the honey.
Jack Daniel's honey.
I think you can explain yours very quickly.
Yeah. The whole reason JD Honey for me is on the 11th is because it's a liqueur, not a whiskey. So hence why it's down there. Flavour-wise, you could probably move it up a few places. But it's 11th because it's not as bad as White and Mackay. As I said, we had to put White and Mackay or Mackay last. But yeah, I've put liqueur in the 11th just because it's not really a whiskey. Yes, it's blended with Jack Daniel's Old Number 7. But for me, it's a liqueur.
I get that totally. So I understand your reason for that. You've said this is shit, that's why it's last, and then you've chose 11th of it's not really whiskey. For me, I haven't gone that route. I've gone on more taste elements, and I've put Jim Beam last. Now, obviously, as being the first one you taste, it has that impact of if it's really good, it's sort of overbearing the whole way through, and if it's sort of mediocre, it sort of drops as it goes through. And it's just as a bourbon itself, it just left a too dry and too peppery taste in the mouth. So it was very much one track. It dried you out and left you with a shit ton of pepper. And it was a case of it wasn't overly enjoyable. If you were to be drinking that in a big glass, working your way through, you're just going to be drying yourself out and needing pepper. And I know that's having it neat. Obviously, if you had it with Coke, it'd be different. But all these I'm comparing to how they were neat. And for me, yeah, it's last. It's not last. It's 11th. Last is White Mackay, obviously. Yes. All right. So 10th place. Officially, the 10th biggest seller is Glenfiddich, which was the only single malt in their age statement of 12 years. And one of the pricier ones on the list, isn't it? I think when we look at it, Glenfiddich and Black Label are probably the higher priced ones, both on that list, but they're both the only ones with an age statement, which normally comes with that price element attached to it.
Yeah.
But for us in 10th, I don't think it's going to be Glenfiddich. It's going to be something completely different. And I'm not sure if we agree. I really don't know. I haven't paid attention to this. So let's see. In 10th place. Oh, it's complete opposite switch. Okay.
I mean, yeah, as Liam said, it very dry, very peppery, very dry virgin oak. Hasn't sat around too long. Here in the UK, for it to be a whiskey, it has to sit for a minimum of 3 years. They don't have that in the US because it's not a whiskey, it's a bourbon. So nobody actually really knows, even though apparently Jim Beam say it's around a 6-year-old. But I would expect a little bit more complexity with a 6-year-old than I did with what was in that bottle. I kind of thought it was, I mean, obviously it's better than WM, but it was just too dry. Too dry, a finish, short finish, and it kind of a little bit of bitterness on the end, but it is what it is. It's Jim Beam.
Well, for me, for the honey, I haven't put it in 10th because it's not a whiskey. I said I'm going on taste entirely at this stage, and I just feel it's too sweet and overbearing on that side. So the sweetness is a fake sweetness in my eyes. I know it's not because it's mixed with a liqueur, but it's not a natural honey element that's coming through. It's been added in, so adjuncts just like in beer. And I'm not a huge fan of flavored whiskies in general. I know we're not going to call it whiskies in that sense, but when people put orange into it, so I've had like the Jameson's orange. I don't get it. I don't get it. If you want to mix it, then make a cocktail at that stage. Use the actual whiskey. If you're buying this, you're buying something that isn't the whiskey fully, because obviously we can see it's only 35% on ABV. But you'd said previously about the makeup of this, and the makeup is it's mainly honey liqueur with about 20% JD in it.
It's very high in liqueur, so you've got just that honey element with. I mean, in these 5cl bottles, you're probably lucky to get just a splash of whiskey at that point. Because obviously these 5cls, they're thousands and thousands and thousands out of one barrel. But yeah, it's more liqueur. I mean, for me, even if it was just a liqueur, and sorry, Jack Daniels, because I do like you, it's not even the best honey liqueur. In fact, Jim Beam honey is slightly better than JD honey. There is any ties that I would have ever had with Jack Daniels totally gone out the window. But Jim Beam, I'm open.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. So yeah, that's the first four, isn't it? The first quarter at this stage. How are you? Did you just top up at that? Have you just topped up?
I did indeed.
Oh yeah, I was just like, I've just had that. I was gonna crack open one of the ones that we had here in front of me, and I was gonna grab a monkey shoulder. Yeah, because it's next. It's number 9, isn't it? So it's just looking at me. So I'm gonna take a monkey shoulder and put it in. Yeah, apologies, I'm not wearing the same t-shirt. I was supposed to wear the same t-shirt, but I chucked it in for the wash, and yeah, that's never going to be dry. I shouldn't have done that. I forgot.
Luckily for me, I've got 3 t-shirts that are exactly the same, so I can swap them out.
It's a disgrace, isn't it? I've ruined the continuity at that stage.
I mean, to be honest, Liam has had 12 days to get that top washed. So, you know.
It's only been worn for like maybe half an hour, 45 minutes per sitting at that stage, hasn't it? So overall, it's had less than a day's wearage, I would put it as.
Yeah.
Oh, Mersey. All right, Mersey. So he's asked the interesting question. Would you ever consider doing this more often using drinks by the dram or similar services? For this actually 12 days, we were looking at one of those services originally, weren't we? We were looking at getting drams from one of those places. I think there's some whiskey stuff in the pipeline, isn't it? That we're looking to do.
Yeah. I mean, I've mentioned it a few times. I know it's never been mentioned on Liam's channel, but we do have quite a lot going on in 12 weeks' time. That's come around quite quick, hasn't it?
Weeks, yeah, that is actually.
Actually, a little less than 12 weeks. But yeah, I mean, we both enjoy a whiskey, so I mean, I'm up for doing a lot more of these type of series. It's just trying to fit it around Liam's work schedule.
Don't do that. Work, yeah. Don't do that. Life and work schedule. No, yeah. So the work at the moment is taking me out to Bristol quite a bit. So, and there's no way to get there early enough from my location. If I need to be there for 9 o'clock, I could I can't. The earliest train gets me there at 9:30 by the time I leave my house. So I have to go the night before, and then, yeah, just sort of when you go the night before, you end up going to the pubs and breweries there.
So if anyone's in the Bristol area and fancies a little catch up with the Ginger Ninja here, drop me a message.
Yeah, I'm there often. I know Mersey Beers keeps pointing me towards a certain pub. The problem is that my workplace is the opposite side of it, so I pass all the breweries, and where the pub he's mentioned, and there's a few other pubs. They're up on the hill side of it, so I'd have to go past the town centre, other side of the coach station, go north from there. It's just too far a lot of times, especially when my hotel's closer to work than it is anywhere else. But there you go. Right, so I've poured myself a monkey shoulder, but I don't think I should go into the detail of it. I think we've covered that. I think we should look at number 9 of our ratings. So I think number 9 in the ratings was monkey shoulder, wasn't it? It was. That's why I picked it up.
It was
just
monkey shoulder. Yeah.
So yeah, number 9 in the official sales charts for the UK was number 9. And for us, we have selected the same one, Maker's Mark. So
yep.
I know it sounds weird, but it's another bourbon that's coming down the lower end of the scale. So we've had Jim Beam and now Maker's Mark. Maker's Mark was the highest ABV one on the list as well. So it was the strongest one on there. I just feel, for me, taste-wise, there are better bourbons out there, and I do like some bourbons. I just don't think it's that good a bourbon. It's okay. It's average in that sense. Price-wise, I think it's slightly overpriced in the UK for what it is. But they've always tried to go for that more, I'm not going to say up market level, but they've tried to sort of say, we hand dip this and we do that, so they can say they can charge a bit more on it. I don't think the price value is good for it, and I don't think the bourbon is the best out there. Give me a bullet bourbon any day over that.
Yeah, I mean, I totally concur with you. I found it a little bit too dry. The finish wasn't long enough. And there was actually nothing on the finish. So again, like the Jim Beam, it was just kind of a one dimension. This is a bourbon. It's made of corn. I mean, all bourbons are corn, basically. I think this is 70% corn. So it's one of the highest mash bills of corn, I think, out of quite a lot of bourbon.
It's like the others, again, it's aged up to maybe 6 years, isn't it? So you tend to find out with most bourbons, it's up to 6 years. Sometimes maybe a bit more, but that's around the age they go for.
And that's if, the distilleries themselves don't kind of underhand or underplay it. I.e., let's say it's around 6 years, but actually really it's not, because we need a high turnover. And a lot of people that love bourbon love the history behind the names and the brands of the bourbons.
Like the branding that you mentioned here with the mark that
yeah. So you've got a star for Star Hill Farms, the S.
His name
for Mr. Samuels, I think it is. It was the owner of the IV because he was the 4th generation. Actually, turned out to be the 5th generation, but or the 6th generation, I think it was. But that was a hiccup on his wife's part, apparently. But I mean, even back then, men had to listen to the wives, so just take it on the chin and go with it. At that point.
Cool.
But there's definitely better ones out there.
Oh, there's so much better, and again, it's
Buffalo Trace being one of them. I mean, I was really surprised Buffalo Trace wasn't on the list, but
it's all about who is owned by who. So the big brands own certain bourbon brands, and they will push them in all the territories because it's easy for them to do. And marketing wise, they can create some sort of marketing around it, something that stands out. So Maker's Mark is always the case of the bottle stands out on the shelf, and then you've got your red wax on it as well. There's a story to sell, isn't it, internationally? And then that's it. You can grab people's attention, and it's easy to sell in the UK because there's a bit of history. People love that.
Yep. You do indeed.
8th place, funnily enough, was Maker's Mark. So Maker's Mark we've ranked as 9th out of our tastings, but it was 8th as the biggest seller. But in 8th place, what have we selected? Ooh, okay. So I've gone with the 4th biggest selling one in the UK. I've gone for Bell's. Now, don't get me wrong, I actually quite like Bell's. For its price, it's great. It's just very much not much to it. It's thin and it's easy to drink based on there not being much flavor. There's a little residual heat, but it just dissipates. It's just, I mean, bog standard. It's cheap, easy. Using it as a mix would be perfect, but neat, I just felt it was lacking that element to push it up. I know it sounds weird that I've sort of given the Maker's Mark and Jim Beam lower because they are over the top on, say, dryness and pepperiness. And then I've chose something that has less flavor higher than them, but it's inoffensive. It's not less flavor. It's just inoffensive in what it has. It's not complex at all in any ways. They are very much a one-way street of pepper and dry, whereas Bell's does have some other flavors to it, but they're just so subtle about it. But that's why I've placed that in 8th. You've gone for Johnny Walker Red Label.
Yeah. Now, for me, Red Label, nice sweetness, a little bit of smokiness on the finish. Hangs around. It's a little bit more complex. It's actually a very approachable blend for a whiskey. Hence why it's 8th on my list. This was actually number 11 in the overall list, so it's actually jumped up quite a few spots on my ranking. But overall, it's not offensive. You can drink it neat. If needs must, you can mix it. But yeah, it's kind of a very good average starting point. So, as I said, Jack Daniels is kind of like a go-to for beginners. If you want to try a Scotch or a blended Scotch, then Johnny Walker Red Label is kind of the one to aim for, and it's pretty cheap as well.
Mersey's saying he would have rated Bell's the lowest humanly possible, then added a minus in front of it to that stage. Don't forget, a lot of people will be mixing. But I'm not measuring on mixing. I'm measuring on taste overall and bringing in a bit of the price element as well. But for me, it's easier if I look at Bell's and I was to take the whole miniature and pour it into a glass, I would enjoy drinking that over a Jim Beam any day, because the Jim Beam is just going to be totally dry and I'm going to need to reach for something to mix it with just to not have such a dry mouth at the end of the day. And the same with Maker's Mark. Just a difference in taste at that stage.
Yep. I mean, I'm happy with my choice. I mean, clearly at this stage, I've actually got Bell's a little higher.
Yeah.
But I know in the reviews I kind of give it a little bit of a kick in, just for the age and kind of the grandeur of Bell's in pubs. You know, it is on the shelf. It's the staple of every single pub shelf.
I think we sort of said, like, I don't know if we'd also said this because we chat before and after the sort of recording, don't we? So half of me forgets what even goes into the recording that stage. But we we did say yes. I know we said on the actual recording, it's an old man's sort of drink, isn't it, at that stage? But Bell's is like rooted. You find it everywhere because it's an easy price point to sell to, say, pubs, and then they'll have it maybe as their. You either find it's Red Label, Bell's, or Famous Grouse that they have as a house whiskey, isn't it? And then you move up to the Jamesons and Jack Daniels as their more premium ones you got to pay extra for. So if people just say, "Oh, I just want a whiskey and Coke," they're going to end up getting that. So it just depends about how many places Bell's gets into. And if you think of like the amount of old man pubs out there, they'll probably be stocking it because they've always stocked it. Why change? Don't want to upset your customers. Just stock what you've always stocked. So you can see how that works with sales for them.
Yep.
Well, I think we'll do reveal number 7, and then we'll take a tiny little break just because I want to go grab another whiskey because I only pulled out my Jameson's round and I've already had some of that, and I'm having the Monkey Shoulder at the moment. But yeah, so in 7th place, the biggest seller was the Blasphemy, that is Jack Daniel's Tennessee Honey, which isn't a whiskey, but it's a liqueur, even by its description. But we didn't compile this list. This is compilers out there compiling the list and saying that's a whiskey, or maybe I don't know how broad the whiskey category is. I wonder if we go down it, we'll find that they've got like Fireball and all the rest in there at that stage.
Yeah, we'll kind of, after we'll get this out of the way, we'll delve into that list that was compiled and the reason for it.
Yep.
So cool. Just so people are aware, we'll actually jump into that.
Perfect. Right, so 7th was the honey, but in 7th, we had these. So I'm quite similar to you. So you had it in 8th place. I've put the Red Label in 7th. Red Label is decent. It is very decent as a standalone, as a mixer. I enjoyed it, but there is better out there. It is obviously the lower end of what they're selling. And out of all their products, it's the lowest one. I prefer some of their other products. Some of them are very pricey, of course, like the blue. But it's good. It is good. I've got to say, anything from here on upwards is a good whiskey in my eyes. It's not in the top 5, but I would say, yes, Johnnie Walker Red is perhaps deserving of the top 12 based on its price point and it being used as a mixer. It makes sense. If you're looking at a mixer, as I said, you can't go wrong with Red Label, Bell's, or Grouse. They're all really good ones to use as a mixer. They're not overpowering, but having them individually, they do have flavors. They're not massively complex, but there's good flavors to them that you can enjoy.
Yeah, and I've gone totally Monkey Shoulder. The one that Liam's currently sipping. There's nothing offensive about Monkey Shoulder. I think it's a new blend. It hasn't been going that long. And I do think in the future, I think they'll have some cracking age statement blends to come. But I think just at the moment, there's a lot better out there. And they're still on this list better than those. But yeah, it's got potential for the future. It's just still a little bit too young, I think, of a whiskey or a blended whiskey. But the heritage behind it and the history of the reason why it's Monkey Shoulder and all that is, yeah, it's kind of right up the alley for whiskey nerds. So yeah, good on them. That's all I have to say at that point.
Cool. Well, I think we're halfway there. So we're going to drop into the top 6 in a moment. Don't forget that officially the 6th biggest seller is White and Mackay, which we've placed in 12th place.
Mackay,
yeah,
you've been told.
Mackay, yeah, Mackay, yeah. It's just the accent. That's all it is. It's the accent. White and Mackay, yes. But I'm going to quickly rummage and find another whiskey that I'm perhaps wanting to go into, because I'm having Monkey Shoulder, which is in the top 6 for me. that's why I cracked it open, because it's one of the ones that I more prefer. But we'll go on to that when we reach it. I'm going to put you on to hold the floor at the moment while I quickly find something.
Just turn your camera off, mate. No need to pop us up big.
No, you're going big.
Because
big.
I'm on big. The big lad goes bigger. But yeah, I'll just go through the comments. Let's. Looks like I'm gonna have to do it on my phone. Liam hasn't enabled them. Do apologise if there's a little bit of echo at the start. And get the adverts out of the way. But yeah, I mean, Monkey Show for me, like I said, it's just a little bit too young at the moment. There's still a long way to go with it, but it's promising. 12 people watching. Hi, Mr. Wilson. Hi, Disco. How are you doing? Sharky. Richie Brewis. Good evening to you. Quite like Jameson's Black Label, although a little more pricey than a few of the top sellers. It is indeed, Richie. Yeah, I think with this list that we've got going at the minute, it's kind of set on price, and we'll look at the different volumes and stuff after this little segment. But yeah, thank you, Adam. The only mixer that suits Bells is Rat Poison. Teachers is somehow better, but that's like saying, how do you want to lose your legs? Shark or Piranhas.
I know, I love that one. That's why I said I know what I'm going to get him as a gift.
Well, Sharky's in the comments, so I'll stick with the Shark. You were savage. Mersey, I like it, says Disco. Don't particularly like Scotch, but recognise half decent one. As I like bourbon and Irish whiskey, Bell's is not even quarter decent. Yeah. But it's on this list. Would we put these certain 12 whiskies on this list of the best whiskies? No. Probably none of these. Maybe 1, 2 would be on our personal list for a top 12, but yeah, that's hard to.
It depends on the list, doesn't it?
Nice, but again. Yeah.
Because you could be making a list. You could be making a list that's looking at maybe ones that you would go to, and then you could be making a list of, I don't know, single malts that you're interested in.
When Steve says he's not a whiskey drinker, but this makes him want to drink it. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I thought Steve was doing a dry January.
He is. I think that's maybe we might turn him on to whiskey.
Yeah, he's not having beer for January, he said.
But
so
yeah.
he can have whiskey.
Yeah. So what have you helped yourself to then, Matt?
I'm not going to just open it yet because I'm still drinking the end of the Monkey Shoulder, but I will get it in a moment. Are you on still the same one, or are you cracking open something new? Or have you already done that?
So I'm still on single barrel. I'm going to continue on single barrel until after this little segment, and then I'm going to move on to something a bit superior. Ooh. I would say.
Well, I guess let's break into the second half of this. So the top 6, what are our rankings for these? So we've already revealed the bottom 6. Top 6, as said before, White McKay was the 6th best selling in the UK for 2023. But we have placed out those lists that the 6th best for us was these. Now, I'm having what I deem the 6th best. I'm having Monkey Shoulder. I think it's decent for what it is. I think I prefer, obviously, the smokier version of it. But as a relatively sort of modern whiskey, not age statement blended, I think it's kind of nice. It is what it needs to be. It's smooth. It's got a different range of flavors to it, and I can drink it neat, easy. What more can I say about it?
Yep. I don't know if it was you or me that was breaking up there.
I don't know.
Probably me. I am on hotspot. I'm not sure.
We'll have to find out what it says in the comments at that stage. Is it if everyone heard me, or whether they not hearing Luke at this stage?
It's probably me.
I never know, because if my internet goes tits up, then I mean, you would go bad anyways for me. So I don't understand.
I think it's me. I've just took off one Wi-Fi on my phone, so now hotspot should be better. Just in case if it was me, I don't know. But yeah.
So
anyway, thank you to the 13 people that are currently watching. Yeah, I put bells. Again, you know, it's affordable, it's inoffensive, it's approachable, and I know I give it a little bit of stick, but you know what? I can kind of see as an old man sat there with a cane on a bench outside of a Yorkshire pub with a whippet next to me with my flat cap on, and just drinking a bells, you know. And it was kind of only after we'd review it, I just thought, actually, you know what? It's what you get afterwards as well. I mean, obviously, we've only took this in as a review on flavour, but bells is there for a reason. So, yeah, a sixth is, I think, still a good spot. Obviously, Adam's going to disagree hugely.
He wouldn't put most of these in the list if it was up to him. But if you have to drink these 12 and you have to order these 12, you're going to be reaching, I reckon, very similar conclusions to us. There's not much else you can do, is there? You're limited. Yeah. These aren't us going out going, oh, we're going to choose 12 for the best. These are, unfortunately, what is selling well in the UK. And based on that, we're ranking them. And I say Monkey Shoulder is 6th for me. Bells is 6th for you.
And I think at this point as well, none of the choices that we've made so far have been totally different to each other.
I'm just thinking, have we got the same 5 remaining for the top 5 then? I think we have.
I think we quite possibly have, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think we've named all the other ones just in a different slight order to each other. But yeah, all I know is that I sent you via WhatsApp my ones, didn't I? So you could create the banners. So I haven't even looked to see what yours is. So every time I see yours, it's a surprise to me because I haven't looked at all. But yeah, it's interesting. So we're both on the top.
And we should say that we've actually both got a different palate.
Oh.
So Liam hates anything sherry cask, enjoys the peaty more, the smokiness more. Yeah. I'm kind of more delicate, floral, a little bit fruity if it's sherry. But yeah, 2 different palate wises, but yet we're not totally different of the choices so far. So
yeah. Take care, David. David's off.
Goodbye, Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, so I like a bit of Speyside. It's just I don't like the sherry casking element of it. It's just, yeah, a bit too much for me. But again, it depends how long they put it in for. No one ever really says. They always like it's been matured in sherry, and you're like, well, how long for? Is it been there just to get a bit of the colour, say a month, and then taken it out, or has it been there for 3 months and it's got a bit too much of the flavours I'm not interested in? Yeah. And that is a comment I'm definitely pinning. Did you see?
I haven't got chat at the minute, so I'd have to go on my phone.
Mersey Beer has said I agree, Luke. I would describe you as delicate, floral, and fruity.
Oh, thank you, Adam. Does that mean you're going to put me in your suitcase when you go to Australia? I should weigh a lot less by then. I'll be able to fit under that 23 kilogram.
He's probably going to be bringing beer for beer exchange out there. Within limits, obviously.
Yep, to Samster the hamster. Right, let's move on to number 5, mate. Now that we're in the top 5.
So, 5th place in the actual best-selling list was, get it right way, Black Label, by volume of sales. But for 5th place, we have gone up, both the same. We have both chose the Famous Grouse. It sounds weird in hindsight when I'm thinking of it and going, Famous Grouse is above Monkey Shoulder and above Bell's. But I know when we were going through it, I felt Bell's was very nothing really to it. But Famous Grouse had something to it. And it's been a long time since I had a Famous Grouse. And having it neat, I don't even know if I've had it neat at that stage. But it surprised me. It did surprise me. I actually enjoyed it neat. And I'm definitely going to be hunting out the smoky one after this, because it's going to be using the same base with just some Isla in there. And I'm looking forward to trying that, because I think that could be really nice, especially for its price point.
Yeah. I mean, price point, it's kind of lower range with a few of these Bell's, White and Mackay, that type of thing. But it's far superior for me on the palate. It's a little bit more complex. Yes, it doesn't last too long. It is slightly smoother. I know some people hate the term smooth when it comes to whiskey, but it is blended. And yeah, it's a very good offering. Kind of Famous Grouse is your, could I say, typical Christmas gift or present gift.
You see it everywhere. It's not even Christmas. It's present, like leaving gifts and all the rest. Because if you go to any supermarket, really a big supermarket, not like small stores, you will see the gift packs in there of whiskey. And there's only a small selection ever. They've got like gins, vodka, whiskey, and the whiskey one. You've normally got 2 ones always there. You've got the Famous Grouse selection, and then you've got the Glenfiddich selection, which is obviously costing more because it's got like the 12, 15, and 18 in there or something. So you see the Famous Grouse and people go, oh, there we go, get that as a gift because they like whiskey. There's a few different ones in there. But, I mean, it's not a bad gift. Originally, I would have been a bit like, oh, this person doesn't know what they're doing. But now I'd be like, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Not too shabby at 5.
And Adam's jumped in again saying, Famous Grouse is better than Bells and Teachers, only for the fact drinking it neat removes all your taste buds. As he said something, I'm waiting for him to say something bad about every single one, even up to the top at this stage. Let's see. Let's see if he can keep that going.
Well, funny enough, the one positive thing he said is that I'm a delicate, floral, and
fruity.
So, I mean, you can't have it both ways, Liam. Get with the program.
The whiskey gets trashed and you get, promoted up.
Yeah.
All right, so 4th place. What we had in 4th place for sales was good old Bell's, which you've seen has come lower down in our estimates, so 8th place roughly. But in 4th place, we've selected, and have we selected the same? I don't know. We have. Okay. So we've both selected Jack Daniels, old number 7, as the 4th best. Is it because it's not able to identify what it actually is? Is it a bourbon? Is it a whiskey? Is it a Tennessee whiskey? Is it a sour mash Tennessee whiskey? What is it?
There is that element to it, but for me, it just went down on flavour. Now, as I said earlier, I love Jack Daniels, but it's not a neat drinker. Unlike this, kind of single barrel. When you get to your single barrel, it's kind of a little bit more palatable. You don't really want to mix. But Old Number 7, kind of just on the flavour, you can kind of see it, why it's a mixer, and not too many people drink it neat. However, on the actual overall list of top selling, it's ranked number 1. So, it's kind of, it's there for a reason, but maybe as I said earlier, taste-wise, it's not the best, it's not the worst. And I think we've put it probably where it should be.
You've got to look, when it comes to Jack Daniels, marketing definitely helps. So people will see things, especially younger people, see things advertised and more than likely might go and try it. And because it's been advertised as a mixer, it's JD and Coke. That's what it's being pushed out. It's a brand that stands out. People know what it is. I can see why people buy it. But again, unfortunately, I have to say it's not the best example. And even when it comes to Jack Daniels, it's not the best that Jack Daniels do. I said I prefer Gentleman Jack over the Old Number 7. And you have single barrel. Plus, you mentioned as well they're doing their own single malt whiskey, aren't they now? A limited release.
Yeah, so single malt, single barrel. For me, the Red Dog Saloon and the White Rabbit are much easier drinkers than JD Original, the number 7. If it was to be drank neat. They're a little bit more out the price range, a little bit more limited, but I'd go for them over the number 7. Although I do have about 5 unbottled, unopened bottles of number 7.
Are they gifts, or you've gone out and purchased them at that stage?
Summer gifts.
Stock.
A lot I've stocked. When it's cheap, you get it in. Family, friends come round. You just want something easy. JD and Coke. When people think of whiskey and Coke, we all think JD.
So yeah, I'm just looking through. So yeah, you've obviously got like other people saying like you got the rye version of JD. Adam's on about the bonded Jack Daniels, which I haven't had personally. I've seen. So I've gone out of Jack Daniel range, apart from the ones that I don't consider whiskey, the flavored ones. I've only had Old Number 7, Gentleman, and Single Barrel. Those are the 3 that I've had. I haven't gone into their limited edition or speciality ones, mainly because if I go to a whiskey bar, I'm not looking at bourbons. I'm looking at single malts on that list. That's what I tend to go for. And Jack Daniels doesn't catch my eye out of that list, unfortunately.
And actually, I should point out that when Liam asked the question earlier about the bottles of kind of spirits, I did not include the Jack Daniels collection in that. Because I'm just not going to. It's quite excessive. It's cost a lot of money, and yeah, I'm just gonna leave that.
I already hands down sort of like conceded to you and said you're the one that it has more than me in house. Right, top 3 time. This is I think we've got the final same 3 remaining. It doesn't mean at this stage, but I don't know if it's going to be the same order. So best selling, the 3rd best selling in the UK was the famous Grouse original, but for 3rd place out of the 12 that we had an option of selecting, we have chosen Jameson's. So the Irish triple distilled, again, massive advertising campaign behind this. Always advertising like drinking with friends and whatever else, and they trade off that Irish element quite a bit, don't they? They really do push that. It's a bit like Guinness. There are, again, I would say, better Irish whiskies out there than Jameson's. But Jameson's for me is an easy one. If I'm at a pub and there's a choice of the mainstream ones that are up there, I'm more than likely going to choose Jameson's. Especially, I do have it neat, but if I'm going to mix it with something, it will be Jameson's over anything else. I just prefer the flavour of it, and I prefer the body of it, and it doesn't leave a lingering taste. It's quite a short taste on it, so it doesn't leave a lingering taste, which is perfect if you're, just drinking through at that stage.
Yeah, I mean, Jameson, very kind of run of the mill. I'd personally prefer the Green Spot from Middleton Distillery, which is also in Cork, next door to Jameson's, over Jameson's itself, but Green Spot wasn't on the list. But yeah, it's just a very nice blend. You can drink it neat, drink it with a mixer. But overall, the flavour and the profile-wise, it had a lot more on the palate. So, yeah, it's number 3 for a reason.
Well, it was the second biggest selling whiskey for 2023 in the UK. So that was the second. We've put it as our third. Not bad sort of placing considering. But for second place, I think there's a split on this one because I remember what our first is. So our second must be different at that stage. So in second place out of the 12, I've gone for the Glenfiddich 12 and you've gone for the Johnny Walker Black Label. Bit of a split there. So obviously it's the only single malt that's on the list. Funnily enough, they're both 12-year age statements, which we've put higher. We haven't gone based. We're not age statement sluts like that. We haven't gone based off that. But they are also the most expensive on the list. There is a premium attached to these. But with that premium, you are getting a much better product in my eyes. You are paying for something that is vastly superior. Saying that, Glenfiddich is, it's not the best for its price range out there. And we'll go into this after, but there are other single malts that are out there that you can grab for cheaper than this. It's just because it's a name. They're known everywhere, and you can see it being stocked in all the bars, can't you? Like if they're going to have a single malt, they're going to have a single malt. They'll have this, and even if they've got a big range of single malts, they'll probably have this as an entry one because they know people will ask for it. I like Glenfiddich 12. It's not that overly complex as some of the other ones. It's a nice space side whiskey though. You've gone for Black Label though.
I've gone for Black Label. So for me, the Black Label is definitely pulls apart from Red Label. Let's just get that out there because Red Label is the cheapest, bog standard Johnny Walker that you can get, basically. But for me, Black Label still a very good whiskey. It had the perfect sweetness. It had a little bit of smoke, not too much. Probably Liam would have liked a little bit more. But for me, it's just blended extremely well. And because it's a blended 12-year-old, every blend that's gone into it has to be a minimum of 12-year-old. So you could have a 12-year-old in there with a 15-year-old, a 21-year-old, an 18-year-old different blend, which is just really, it all comes down to the blend master. He's created something extremely well. Black for me is a little bit better than some of the Blue Label, and especially for price because Blue Label is
it's 4 times the price, 5 times the price, depending where you're getting it, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes Black Label you can pick up for £40. Blue Label you can pick up for £240. So there's a huge price gap there. But
like on Amazon right now, you can get Black Label 70 centilitre for 22 quid, and the Blue Label is 150 quid. and that's on an offer down from their usual 1999. So I mean, the price difference is huge. It's huge. Is it worth it? That's a different question. But yeah, Black Label. I mean, very close, like in where it comes in taste. But obviously, that's our number twos. We know what the biggest selling was in the UK. It was Jack Daniel's last year, year before that. I think probably 7 years or more. Jack Daniel's has been the biggest selling whiskey in the UK. But for us, it's going to be a complete switch at this stage. I've chose my number one as the Black Label. And the reason why I've gone for Black Label is, again, it is playing to my taste. It is that smoky finish on it. I do like a smoky one. And this is the only one I would say out of all of these that had that proper smoke element to it. And for me, that is just how I like it. I like to have a bit of smoke in my mouth at the end of the finish. It just, I feel, is a good finish. I like it. I like it. I know you're not as big a smoke fan, which will be interesting to see come April. How it goes. Yeah. But for me, I really like it. And I do think this was the best out of the 12 for me. But it was very close, I would say, between the top three of Jameson's, Glenfiddich, and this. Each of them have their own moment of when I would choose it. I would have the black neat. I wouldn't mix that at all. I know people would mix it perhaps with like soda water, but I wouldn't do that at all. I'm having this neat. When it comes to black, I actually prefer black over double black. Double black for me, I think it just moves a bit too far. It's not the smoke element. I just feel it moves away a bit too far and it becomes a bit harsher. And I prefer the black. And funnily enough, obviously black is cheaper in price by, I think it's about a tenner difference between black and double black, or maybe it's a fiver. Trying to think airport prices at that stage when you normally go look at the litres. But I think this is a worthy of being in the top 12 for sales for sure. And obviously I'm hoping people aren't mixing this in the pub with Coke. Oh God, no, please don't be.
Yeah. Obviously, come as no surprise what mine is. With me, myself being delicate, floral, and a little bit fruity. That is Glenfiddich. It's a single malt. I do like my single malts. I think they offer a lot more on the palate. And, you know, a single malt should be drank neat. You can add a little dash of water if you must, just to open it up. But yeah, it's got everything that you want in a Scotch whiskey. Certainly, there's a lot better whiskies out there, like a lot. But at the price point, and for a 12-year-old, especially the boom that we're seeing at the moment with the likes of Springbank, where, you know, a 10-year-old Springbank 4 years ago used to be £48 a bottle. Now they're selling for £125, £130 a bottle. So yeah, Glenfiddich have kept it the price there for the whiskey drinker, not the collector. And that's kind of one of my gripes at the minute within the whiskey community, because people are just buying these whiskies to sit on them. They're sitting on them and
because
chucking them into the
prices going up. They're thinking they can just sit on them, buy it now, and it's treating it like investments and stuff, isn't it?
But what you'll find is, so there's a thing, whiskey auctions. You can go on a whiskey auction website. You will find a rarer bottle from, say, Springbank will crop up. But then you look at the auction and there'll be 15, 20 bottles of the same thing in the auction. So you can't buy it
so low
at market value that they wanted for. But when it comes to the auction, it's all there, you know, and they're kind of ruining whiskey and the enjoyment of whiskey, because it's pricing out too many people.
You had shared something with me about whiskey prices based on, cost pressure inflation, where it should be and where it actually is. There was some sort of chart you had, wasn't it? Which was interesting to see. But yeah, that is our rundown of where we've placed those 12. So we've obviously done the 12 days of whiskey, and then we've just shown you what we preferred out of those 12. But there were a few interesting things you want to share about this list of 12, wasn't it, Luke? You getting up that thing you shared?
Yeah. So obviously, the way we've done this best-selling whiskey is in terms of volume. It's not in price. It is on volume of sales within the UK. And one in particular, which is JD Original, stands out astronomically in difference to second Jameson's. And I'm not just talking a small amount. This is quite a few millions of litres, and tens of millions of litres of whiskey. But as we've said, and we've shown here, it's not on flavour. It's the fact that it's a mixer, it's at the right price point, and they've done the branding well.
Yeah, so on those numbers, what was it? It was 21 million litres of JD. And then we had Jameson's coming in at just below 7 million. So you can see JD is like 3 times the volume of Jameson's. And then Glenfiddich, which was down in 10th, is only pushing like 1 million. Big change. I just read something there. White and Mackay had the largest increase in volume. Their volume sales went up 45%. How the hell has this gone up 45% in sales?
And I'm not surprised, considering you can pick it up at £14 a bottle. So what's that kind of telling you with those that are just buying run-of-the-mill whiskey? Is the fact that they're buying cheap. I mean, to be honest, we looked earlier today, and a Tesco's own brand bottle of whiskey is £11 more than White and Mackay or Mackay. £11 more for a Tesco own whiskey.
But we also mentioned, and if we're going on about pricing wise, so White and Mackay you can find for that price point, but you can find other ones around that price point. So we said it in the streams as well, like Bell's and Famous Grouse you can find for the same price, but there's always offers reducing other ones down. And so we're looking through some of those offers earlier, weren't we? That we had showing. So if I look at this, we've got at the moment, if you were to go into Tesco's, not even like I think it is an offer, yeah. So which one am I looking at? So Famous Grouse is 15 quid. And then we had Grant's coming in for 18.50, which Grant's is better than White Mackay, that's for sure. And then you've got like things like Jim Beam, which I don't rate massively, but there's variants of Jim Beam that they're selling for sub 15 quid as well, with obviously the caveat of there's a club card offer attached to it, isn't it?
Yeah. But I've just shared you that thing anyway that we were from Aquavita on your WhatsApp, just in case if you ever want to put it up. But yeah, price point is the big issue with whiskey, as we were saying. But for me, if something's selling at £14 a bottle, you've just got to think to yourself, what's in the bottle? because it's kind of frightening when you see something for £14 a bottle on a discount. Why does it need to be £14 at discount?
Volume.
And they're doing it to shift it to increase the sales, and the distillery is not bothered about the quality of the product it's putting out. They want to move up the ranks of volume and sales, which is disappointing. But it's kind of is what it is. The whiskey industry is not going to change, especially not for what me and Liam say, especially. But Black Label and Glenfiddich 12 are there for a reason at the top.
So I'm just going to bring in that screenshot you sent me about whiskey pricing.
Yeah, so here we have, this was on Aquavita Live, which is Water for Life, which is what the Scottish call whiskey. So you've got the list there, you've got the 2020 price, as it was clearly back in 2020, with inflation and taxes and tax changes. That is the projected cost that each of them bottles should be selling for. But you just need to look at the prices. I mean, a Talisker 18's gone from £80 to £175 within 3 years. The Glendronach 18, again, £90 a bottle, should be £108. It's now £175 a bottle at its cheapest. So yeah, they're kind of going well over. And Arbor there is kind of in that price range. £80 should be 78. It's there or thereabouts. But some breweries are doing it. Distilleries are kind of throwing up the prices in whiskey because they know people are going to buy it.
They're taking the piss. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to crack open, since we've finished that list, I'm going to crack open another whiskey. This time I'm going for my Glenfiddich Project XX. Lovely bottle as always. I was going to get the IPA out, but I decided I didn't fancy that one because it's not actually amazing. But this one is quite good.
While you do that, I'm going to jump behind the camera and get my next one. So back in a second.
Well, I'll go full screen at this stage. So just show that off. So yeah, this is Glenfiddich Project XX. The Project XX, I believe, was just a case of they got all their different distillers across their whole business to pick out a cask that they liked from Glenfiddich, and then they blended those. So the 20 different distillers each chose a cask. They blended them together. There's no age statement on this because I think some of the ones that were chosen were actually quite youngish. So there is no age statement listed against it. But this is 20 different casks, so limited amount of bottles were produced of this. And they were then blended together to try and make something. And what did they make? They made this.
They made it XX.
Yes.
So for me, I've gone to my pedestal and over to the 10-point stag of Dalmore. And it's a Dalmore 15-year-old. This, for me, is probably one of the best Dalmore. It's not the cheapest. It's not the most expensive. Definitely not the most expensive. That's never going to be in my price range, that's for sure. But there we have it. Dalmore 15. Lovely. they've probably added colour. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, it's just a lovely dram, I think, just to finish the show on. A lovely pop to boot. And because I've gone down more, I just reach back because I've already rinsed it and rinsed my palate. I'm just going to put some in my pewter glass.
Lovely.
And there we have it. Lovely jubbly.
I love that glass, by the way. I'm not going to steal it. It's not going to go missing. Honest, Governor.
I'll try and get you one. I think the going rate for them is about 50 quid, which obviously it's a lot, but it is pewter. So I mean,
what you need to do is go on the sort of Dalmore tasting and hope they have some of those there that you can smuggle away. Not that, no, most of the time they give you these, which is where I've got all these from. So I've got all my little Glencairn glasses from all the different visits and tastings I've done. They normally box it up as well. They take away. Sometimes I've been driving, so I haven't even used them.
There's a special way to put this lid on, because you can't just put it on willy-nilly. It's got a,
Glenfiddich, there's only there's 3 different ways it can go on, so it fits either way, like that.
There's a lot of sides that you can get mixed up on in this one. But I do love a bit of Dalmore. And I should point out it's a single malt scotch.
Single what? Oh, single malt, sorry, you say.
Oh, fruity, leathery. Just aromas of wood, vanilla, banana, bit of caramel. Very sweet. I don't know why I had a whisper sweet there. My body just felt the need.
You're trying to set off Adam, aren't you? There, with your fruity character.
Yeah. And I should say this is like totally different from the Glenfiddich. But that's a nice thing about single malts. They are all different.
See, this is obviously it's Glenfiddich, so it's based off their barrels that they would be using. So we're looking at something that is very similar to a Glenfiddich. It's just it smells sweeter. It's just got a sweetness to it. And I know it sounds weird. I said like the JD honey was a bit too sweet for me, but I do have a sweet tooth. So the smoke and the sweetness I do like. It's just there's an element of how sweet it goes. But on the nose, it's more like it's got like an appley sweetness and it's probably honey in there as well, elements, but it just smells sweet. A bit of floral.
If people didn't know Liam's the type of person who would have a Cuban cigar while munching on a key lime pie, that's the type of person he is. It's out there now. It's out there for the record.
When I've done Dalmore, it's been as a mix as that. Yeah. Good nights, that is.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers,
man. I'm not expecting much to remember actually much of the stream at all tomorrow. I've already drank like enough whiskey tonight than I have in a long time, including doing these 12 days of whiskey. But it's worth it.
I haven't really been drinking much beer during this, so I've sort of leveled it out. I have had a few, you know that.
But Christmas only comes around once a year.
Yeah.
If you're watching in 352 days' time, then cheers.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Yeah.
Merry.
So actually, I never checked ABV on this. It's still going to be? Yeah, I thought it was higher. So this is 47%. Because you can feel more of the alcohol heat off it, which hides around. There is actually I'm not going to say smoke in that sense, but there's a bit of smoke elements, so sort of charcoaly a bit in there. But otherwise, it is more on the fruits. I'm just getting more of the fruits coming through, which is Speyside, it's Glenfiddich. It's going to be very similar, but it is a nice blend, and it's nice that it's 47% as well. So you're getting something that's closer to cask strength, not quite there. And then if I wanted to, would put a little drop or two of water in there just to break the oils apart and get more of that flavour coming through.
Yeah, I mean, likewise, mine. It's only 40%. But what that means is there's very little heat. It's very balanced. You get a lot more of the flavour on the palate, and it lingers. Does the Dalmore? So I took my sip about a minute and a half ago, and I'm still getting and drawing through all those flavours out of the whiskey. And yeah, that's kind of what a good whiskey should be doing. Not like the bourbons where it's one hit and disappears immediately.
It's the whole idea that it generally is one track, I feel, with not all bourbons, but the bourbons that we've had in the top 12 they're very one track with this is a nose, and then when you go in, the taste and the finish are all very much on the same line. There's not the complexities of it changing from when you first consume to when it sits in your mouth for a bit. Jim Beam, it was just getting drier and peppery. more pepper, drier. It's just, the blend. Little conversation that's been asked in the chat here. So Richie's asked, what is either the most expensive or best whiskey you have ever had?
Most expensive has probably been the Dalmore King Alexander III.
Okay.
That is, I think when I got it was about $280 a bottle.
You bought the whole bottle?
Yeah, the whole bottle. And a nice little box.
No, I would say, like, for me, expensive, I've had many, like, you go to a whiskey bar, you can try different ones. And I have, you splurge. As you do, you sort of splurge. So you'll have a few of the other ones, and then you'll say, oh, let's finish the night on something a bit, more. And so you end up picking something from the list. But the problem is on that list, if you're buying something that's, say, more at the £15 to £20 for a measure, that doesn't really equate to the price of the bottle, unfortunately, because the bottle's nowhere near that. Just bar prices. Yep. But yeah.
I mean, for me, if I took out Jack, then this is my second bottle of Dalmore 15. I treat myself to the pedestal for my birthday this year, which added a bit more cost onto it. But it's my second bottle of Dalmore 15. I don't tend to often go back and buy a similar bottle because I like to go out there and explore a little bit and try different things and new things. But yeah, I thought I really did like that Dalmore 15, and I'll probably buy a third, to be honest.
I think for me, I'm just trying to think through, because I know the problem is I like smoky, so I like Oban, and I've liked some of the limited edition runs they've done of Oban. So I've been Oban a few times, and I've picked up some of the different bottles there through the taste, and I've tasted them all. They're very limited in how much they produce anyways, because the size of it. But I think one that's readily available that you can find that's not too bad a price, you can probably find it you definitely find it in Waitrose, but I know that doesn't mean anything. But sometimes I think I've seen it in Sainsbury's, is Lefroy Quarter Cask. I like the Quarter Cask. So it's still peaty, but it's just got smoother and maybe a fruity notes to it as well. And I quite like that. For me, it gives me that balance of my sweet tooth and my smoke.
Yeah. I mean, I have had Lefroy Cartiers a few times, and the nice thing about the Cartiers is it's a festival whiskey. And they are slightly different. They don't totally go for that peaty, smoky. They kind of change it up a little bit for the festival whiskies. So the Cartiers, if you're going to look for a Lefroy that's changeable every single year and slightly different, then I'd always look for the fish. The fish is the festival, the fish isle. Yeah, and all the distilleries kind of do it at that point, and they all release special festival whiskies.
So if we were to talk about 12, not even saying top 12 at this stage, but if you were to choose whiskies that you would say that are a suitable price point and that you think are really good, what would you be putting in there? So in that top 12, you don't have to choose 12, just what would you say for you is in that category?
The Bowmore 12, the Brookladdy.
Would you put the Buffalo in as well?
I'd put the Buffalo Trace in there. I'd even put Wild Turkey Long Branch in there as well. Matthew McConaughey. It's all £38 a bottle. And yeah, but this is the thing, it's with whiskey, it shouldn't come down to price, but unfortunately it does.
Everyone has a price point, as we've sort of discussed. Everyone has a price point. So the idea is that we are all price sensitive, and it's the idea that you could either say, "Oh, I buy that," or save a bit and buy something slightly better in a week or two's time, and that's what it comes down to. The idea of, is it worth spending £24 on a bottle, or is it worth waiting a bit more and get something that's £30? If I'm looking at price point, ones that I would say that are good for the price point, just depends on where you find them and offers that go through. I would definitely be saying along the lines of Jura is a good one to choose. And then I would also say Glen Murray, or Moray as it's written, but Glen Murray. They are still relatively new. They're not age statements, although they are aged for the required time, at least 3 years. And a lot of their stuff, I think, is around 8 years, but they don't want to label, or 6 to 8 years. They don't want to label it because that's not really a selling point. And you can find their stuff like 20 quid odd. Just depends on time of the year. And then I would also say on price point, Bushmills. I think Bushmills is superior to Jameson's. It's just not everywhere. Bushmills Black, yeah, I'll take it. But you don't generally find Bushmills, do you? The original Irish distillery. So that's what we call it.
And I mean, in that list as well, you can put in the Glenlivet.
As a single malt, that's probably one of the cheapest age statement ones you're going to find, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Any from Dufftown, really, up on Speyside. There's a lot out there. I mean, or if you're new to whiskey and you want to know whiskey without the cost and want to know where you lie in terms of palate and style that you like, there is whiskey festivals up and down the entire length and breadth of the UK.
You were talking about that, yeah. So who's the company that runs those?
Whiskey Lounge, I believe it is. And I think it's around £45-50 for a ticket for a session. But that includes all the whiskey you can drink. Obviously, the idea is not to go there and get absolutely legless, even though it's hard to do at times. But it's nice that, if you want to buy a bottle of whiskey, but you're not sure what your style is, then going to a place where you've paid a similar price for a good bottle of whiskey, that's at a good price, is worth doing. And the whiskey community is lovely. It's not like a beer festival where it's all loud music and absolutely bouncing and everybody's aiming for 11% stout. It's...
Yeah, I was just looking, so I just seen there was one, by complete chance, advertised for Bristol. I searched Whiskey Lounge Festival and Bristol came up for July. It is tickets from $26.50, so I'm assuming early bird. It's 4 hours though, but all samples included. And do they give you free stuff as well at all? Are there marketing out there?
So you get a glass and a lanyard. So it's a Glencairn glass that Liam's got, and the lanyard, you actually sit it within the lanyard. Yep. So you sit it in the lanyard, attached to the lanyard, means you can pick up bottles, look at them, talk to people without always having a glass in your hand. There's always brochures. There's always discounts. A lot of these give huge discounts at these festivals. You could see yourself 30% off on some.
Well, on the other side of that, I would say that if you want to go, I'm not saying non-brand, but off-brand in a sense. I said this before, like you can go Lidl and Aldi. They will have, competitors to some of the mainstream ones. Like Adam was saying, they've got one of the White and Mackay. I wouldn't bother with that, but they do Ben Bracken, which is award-winning. It's a single malt from Islay. So someone on Islay is producing that for them, and it's supposedly a 16-year aged single malt, and you're getting it for, I mean, their prices have gone up. I know when I was buying it, but it's probably pushing about 18, 19 pounds now. I haven't checked in a while, but they've got a few different Ben Bracken ones there. So they've got the Islay one, they've got other ones as well. They are decent. And if you're wanting to, try out single malts, if you normally are blended and you want to try out single malts, that's always a good entry point. Likewise, I think we talked about, was it Tesco's, and they have their own ones as well. But again, it's just looking to see when offers come in, and offers change all the time. And I know people say, oh, it's the devil, but Amazon, honestly, they have whiskey deals all the time. And my general searches tend to be, I go on Amazon, look to see what whiskies are on offer, and then I quickly go to Camel and see, is that actually a good offer or not? Because Camel traces the prices, so they may be saying it's on sale, but it was actually being sold only 2 months ago cheaper. So yeah, what's the point? Unless I'm really desperate for it, I'll hang on. Sometimes set an alert and wait for it to come to the price I'm waiting for.
And what I must mention as well is there's a lot of independent bottlers now within whiskey, and what you'll find is you could pick up a rarer whiskey for cheaper because it doesn't have that whiskey distillery branding, but yet you've got the independent bottlers brand. So you could pick up a 30-year-old Lefroy for much cheaper because it's got an independent bottler's logo on than from Lefroy itself. So it's always worth, Masters of Malt, Whiskey Exchange, and dare I say it, because I don't like it, the whiskey auctions.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of whiskey auctions, I'll tell you, just mainly because when you're searching for things, they seem to come up quite near the top all the time, don't they? So
yeah,
sort of like, no, I don't want to see the price of a sale that's been completed. I want to see something else.
Yeah.
Just sharing quickly. So Camel is, it literally tracks Amazon prices. So you paste in the Amazon page that you're on. So for example, and I'm not sharing my screen, I could potentially share my screen, couldn't I? Just to show this. So let me get the 2 pages together. So if I quickly show my screen. If I go on here, I'm looking at, say, Johnny Walker here, and I can click on, say, the black, and that will take me through to this product. I can just copy that, go to the price tracker, paste it in, search on camel, and then down here it shows you price history. Now I don't want to go back all the way to 2014, so I just click on the last year, and I can see £22 isn't really the cheapest they've done it. They've dropped it in, time in June. The summer they've dropped it 20 quid. The highest it's been is up to near 27. I mean, 22 is a decent price, not that bad. But you could set an alert on here so it notifies you when it drops below a certain price point, and they'll email you. I do that for some of the things, like I've got that on blue. I've definitely got an alert on blue just in case there's a sale like there was previously. There was a good sale once, and I managed to get the Johnny Walker Blue for sub £100. And now, I mean, you're not getting anywhere near that.
No.
Right. Well, I think
I'm just chilling. I'm just chilling now. I've opened the Dalmore. I'm in this lovely little place where I'm just like, yeah, all is good in the world.
I think we planned it right. And the idea was we were looking to do this over 2 hours. That was the idea, to work through, do some tasting, give some recommendations, have a bit of chat, just talk about potential other options that could be in there, pricing. Because to say, if you're, as I've seen in the chat anyways, during Christmas, people just buy anything at that stage. They'll go through, and stuff that will be offered will tend to be the mainstream stuff that is owned by the big distilleries that are pushing it out, because they produce it in bulk, they sell it, and they want to try and keep their point, don't they? Saying we're there as one of the biggest sellers. So they'll definitely go in with those price points to make sure that they keep that in there, because if they don't and they drop out that top 10, then they start losing it. So I do like to go to whiskey places, but the problem is you tend to find now, more than anything else, they're all taken over. So in London particularly, you'll find like Whiskey Exchange has got all the bigger places. There's a few independent wine places I know of, but it's harder to find whiskey. Now I can go to some places like, I'm not going to call them bottle shops because they sell like everything, but it's not an off license either. But they're an off license in a sense, and they do have some good stuff in there occasionally, and offers going as well.
Well, Be a Goggler has just put something similar in chat.
Yeah, that's what I'm going off. Yeah, I just read that bit about small independents. I was like, yeah, I agree entirely.
I had a little laugh to myself there about photography, because a lot of whiskey drinkers tend to be photographers, because they like to photograph the whiskey and the bottles and the different style of bottles. And the locations, let's be honest, the locations of distilleries tend to be awesome. Unless if it's gin distilleries in London where it's in a back alley on an industrial estate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, if you look at, most gin and modern ones, they're not really. But when it comes to whiskey, location's amazing. And I can't wait. I can't wait for our little adventure. We're going to tick off quite a bit, aren't we?
Well, should we mention that little adventure, seeing as though we've got 6 minutes left?
Go for it. I'll leave you to go into the details of the planning.
Yeah, so mid-April, myself and Liam we're off to Islay. And not just Islay, we're off to Campbelltown and a few lowland distilleries. Maybe Auburn, if we can get our designated driver. Basically, we'll just give him an energy drink and a Greg sausage roll, and he'd be happy at that point. But yeah, we're going on this kind of mad whiskey adventure. The original plan was to have a motorhome and tour around. Turns out we can book glamping pods and a posh bed and breakfast and a cottage on the island for £800 cheaper than a motorhome. So we've gone down that route, but that opens us up to being able to visit a bit more and get out a bit more without the worry of bloody hell, this motorhome's going to eat into fuel like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, it's the fuel cost, it's the location of where we need to finish and find where we can park with it. With a car, it's so much easier, to park at locations, move around, easier to get on the ferry, accommodate us, isn't it? Back and forth, cheaper as well. But
yeah, and all those whiskey type videos are all going to be on this channel. On Liam's, Liam's also going to do some vlog style stuff himself for this channel. He says that
they'll be up in 2025. Yeah, knowing me.
And I'm going to be doing stuff for my channel as well. Different types of things: food reviews, drinks reviews, whiskey reviews. Maybe a couple of live streams throughout the week. Well, we've definitely got some whiskey shows planned, kind of for an hour or two, where it's Team Luke versus Team Liam, where we're going to battle between ourselves, which Liam doesn't know the ins and outs of it yet. But
no, it's all keeping from me at this stage. But yeah, we're going to do obviously distillery tours, tastings, get as much in, show you it. As you said, we've got a designated driver, so we're sorted. That stage means we can get to more places, especially as it's remote. That's the problem with it all in Scotland. You're looking at quite remote locations. They're not best public transport connections, so it means we can just get round as much as possible. What's the rough number? Was it 11? No, it's more than 11, isn't it?
14, I think I've got on the list. So that's 14 distilleries in a week, 5-6 drams at each. But I mean, we won't need the heating on, that's for sure, because I think we're going to be pretty warm anyway. But
it'll keep us going at that stage, yeah.
But it's going to be an adventure, and like I said, most of it's going to be on this channel.
The vlog will be on yours. I think the aftermath will be on here of the maybe distillery elements. So obviously that will be putting together different footage that we've got. So we will have sort of drone footage and all the rest that we need to mix together, put it together, and sort of show off all those different distilleries and our adventure with them. But the vlog will be where to go to watch it on Luke's channel, which he has been linked under all the videos. I've just checked, and I don't think I put your link on this description, so I will put it on the description as well here. So definitely go check out Luke's channel, sub to him, because that will be where the adventure takes place.
Yeah. Well, the more edited stuff
in real time, the raw stuff. That's where we'll be seeing the challenges and everything at that stage there in real time.
Yeah, and that perfectly brings us up to the 2-hour mark.
Yep. And with that, I know there's been a lot of chat, and I know we haven't got around to answering everything, and I hope you guys managed to chat amongst yourself, answer some questions, just even discuss whiskey, the recommendations, what people like. It's all good to see people chatting about it. But I guess from us two, we'll be signing off until, I don't know, there might be something in between, or until our adventure. But it's been great having you all along with us, and we look to have you all join us on our adventure out.
Thank you all very much. Namaste.
Take care, everyone. Bye.